Welcome, Craig. Welcome back to Travel Connections. Thank you very much for once again coming back to talk about our adventures.
Wow, what a nice greeting. It's so nice to see you. And I feel like I just don't see you enough. So this is awesome.
So we have to record ourselves.
That's right.
Well, it makes sense because only the two of us went on this particular trip. And it was so amazing that it had to be a podcast episode, don't you think?
It was only the two of us, but it was connected to a prior trip that was a larger group as part of your business. So I guess there's that tie off. But yeah, it was, I think it just says so much for the last trip that it captivated our imagination enough and that we can incorporate things you're going to get to that it just made sense to do this.
Okay. So let's talk about that last trip. We're referring to Patagonia, which still, it's my screensaver. I think about it all the time. It was just such a remarkable trip. We did do several podcast episodes on it. So if anybody's listening and wants to learn more, it was just a remarkable place. And, but before that, there is a reason we went to a tiny little island off the south end of Chile. Tell us how we got to that part of this story.
So first, when I hear you say prior podcast, I think you should be like Netflix and be able to say season 3, episode 10. But right.
Thank you, boss. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's interesting. So in January of 2015, I read an article in the weekend version of the Wall Street Journal. And you read a lot of books. I read the journal every day. And there was this great article on travel in the Outlook section, which talked about this island off the southern coast of Chile. And it captivated me so much so that I put a copy of the PDF in my phone in the notes section, and I referred to it through the years. And, I think you and I have looked at, is there a way that we could incorporate that into a trip? And it just never quite seemed to work at itself to the top. But then when I told that story a lot lately, people actually treat me like I'm compulsive, like you kept it for 10 years. And it's like, I don't think that's such an odd thing. So I'm very defensive. I'm glad I kept it. I thought, and it exceeded my expectations based upon what I had read.
100%. I'm not saying that as your wife, but I'm saying it as a fellow traveler. If you stumble upon something or someone tells you a story about a place and you're like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
And you put it in your notes in your phone and you've got it there for perpetuity.
Right.
And, South America is not around the corner. It's also not a place that really anybody we knew that was doing trips to South America 10 years ago. I don't know that it was that common. Maybe, but not in our circle. And so you held on to it, and we really just didn't have enough back knowledge to even begin to think about, well, how do you go to an island? Where else do you go? How does this work? And so sidestep to talking about Patagonia, I think a lot of people have heard about Patagonia, or maybe it's on their bucket list, maybe it isn't, but maybe it's certainly something they've heard of, right?
Right.
So then we go to Patagonia with Colette, which was unbelievable. It was amazing. We made great friends. We saw incredible nature. I can't say enough about it. But Soledad, a woman named Sol, we all thought she was a man to start with, but she's not. And she was our tour guide, and you told her this story.
Yeah, I did. And what's really interesting, the dynamic between Chileans and Argentinians is interesting. Let's not go into that. But I do think she is so proud of her country, as so many Chileans are. And it just stood out. She said, I know where that is. And she worked with you on curating a trip. And I think for years, we thought naively we could do Buenos Aires, BA, we could do Iguazu Falls, we could do Mendoza, we could do Chiloé Island. And then you realize, and Patagonia, and you realize it's too ambitious in a 10 or 12-day trip. If you have a month, no problem. And I think Patagonia has many regions, and you don't consider really going even south of that into what that brings. So I think we canceled a few trips.
Yeah.
But when Saul was able to say, yeah, I'm very familiar and I can help curate a trip for you, which she did beautifully, I think that it really just helped it come together.
Well, it's true. And for today's purposes, we're going to be talking just about Chiloé Island because there's so much to talk about. We're going to have to circle back and talk about what she and her husband, Antonio, actually created for us. We did land, I mean, if to start this way, we did land in Santiago. And we spent a couple days there exploring the vineyards just outside of Santiago. And then we took a flight all the way down to the very bottom to this place called Puerto Montt. None of this made any sense to us at the time. It was like, I knew that I had to get a flight to this place, but I didn't understand it. So let's talk about the hotel. So the hotel is spelled Refugia, Refugia. You want to take a stab at that?
No, I don't, because we haven't agreed on that.
We
But
haven't.
but it was a new branding for what I had read about 10 years
Correct.
prior.
Correct.
And I think it is planes, trains, and automobiles to get there, and a ferry, right?
Yeah, and a ferry. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to call out too that I know this is not a paid ad, but LATAM Airlines
Yeah.
was just an amazing experience, which I didn't expect either. But I think the flight was hour and a half, 2 hours to Puerto Montt. The drive to the ferry, half hour or so. The ferry, half hour, 45 minutes, and the drive to Refugia was what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
And I mean, it takes patience to get there, but when you arrive and the clearing opens up and you see the view on the water, unbelievable. It's just everything we wanted it to be.
Well, and what I think captivated me when you showed me that article is this destination is a combination of very cool, chic architecture on a remote island in a remote place. But there's only 24 rooms in this hotel. And by the way, this is not paid. Craig and I paid for this whole thing. We are in admiration of it. I just think it's a spectacular destination. And I hope to share spectacular places with our listeners because it was just remarkable. And the young people that work there were so lovely. And so let's talk about staying there. There's only 24 rooms.
Well, I think, you leave out too that they're very focused on activities. The staff that's there to help you is amazing. The kitchen, the chef, and the staff, really amazing. You realize it's a seasonal gig for these people.
Right.
Because there's a good 5-6 months of the year where it's not really, you don't have tourists, it's not as livable.
Yeah.
But I just think from the moment you walk in and you see the panoramic view of the ocean, I think you're right. The welcoming cocktail, the cocktail of the day, the different menu every night, everything about it was incredible.
Well, it was. And as it starts to unfold, you're kind of like, oh, this is everything and more than I hoped and thought it would be. I mean, honestly, it is a long trek down there. Picture South America, and you're not quite at the bottom, but you're pretty far down there. And we went in winter. We went in December, January. So it was the beginning of their summer, which was a really great time to go. And it's a very historic, besides being remote, it's a very historic island. The sailing ships used to come to this archipelago and pull up, and they built churches. And we'll talk about the churches in a minute. I just couldn't believe that it was exactly what you were hoping for. I mean, the linens were local. The furniture had a local flavor, but was really elegant and cool.
Right. I think, and it's funny, what drew me, I think the photos of the kayaks on the pier, and just like the quiet nature of the property. I think you get there and you realize it's not focused on kayaking; it's focused on all kinds of activities in a well-rounded way. Um, but again, people, just like most places we go, it's the people that captivate you.
Yeah.
And just everything about this was welcoming and first class.
Right. What do you think our fascination is with South America? We've gone 2 years in a row, which is kind of unusual.
I thought about that when you told me the questions you'd be asking. Here's what I think. We've been to Europe. We're very fortunate.
Hmm.
20, 30, 40 times, right? You more than I, clearly, with the work you've done. But it's not that I take it for granted, but I'm very comfortable. I know the restaurants I like, and I know my way around so many cities. I think this is a newer frontier for us. And then you start to realize the flight is not as arduous as going to Africa. So that kind of opens it up. I think I have always found through business that the Latin Americans are about the kindest people on the planet. They love their families, they love their countries, and they want to show you what they have. And I think all of that together conspires to finally, to draw us in. And then once you're there, we're already planning 2 other trips now,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
to me, that's, what about you?
Same. A little side note, our entire lives, we've been eating Chilean sea bass.
Yes.
Guess what, folks? It's not Chilean, it's Chilean.
Right.
And I just think that is so flippin' funny that we have no idea how to, and it's Chile. It's not Chile, and they don't grow chilies there.
Yeah. I think it's so American,
Yeah.
right? To own a statement and to not correct it. But no, it's funny. So yeah, for years. And what's really funny is there isn't any Chilean sea bass in the US in 10 years. It's been fished out.
They're all fished out. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it's something else white that they call Chilean sea bass. But yeah, it is funny. I think, the thing that goes with that too, when the seafood, incredible, but you start to think about the wines and the pride in their country, and you look at the Carmenera, which is the grape that they're so known for, which has a history without taking too much time here that's phenomenally worth looking into. Right. So, yeah, I mean, there's just so much there. But again, I come back to the pride they have in their country is just inspiring.
Well, it is. And so we were lucky enough to meet Sol, and we spent 2 weeks with her. So we learned all about her home country. And that kind of inspired us. We're like, okay, now's the time.
Yeah.
She can help us build this trip. And now's the time for us to go to Chiloé, which is so funny. No one's ever heard of it. And half the people we told were like, I'm sorry, why are you going there? And that's why I wanted to do this, because I don't want thousands of people to come rushing down to this tiny little remote island. However, tourism definitely feeds this island. And I think it's okay if someone is adventurous and wants to go there. But, it's the nature, I think. I hadn't been exposed to, why are you smiling?
I think I know where you're going to go. Yeah.
What? It's just the nature is so big and so amazing. And this encompassed very amazing food, extraordinary food, farm to table, sea to table, not to be corny, but it's literally from steps away. They're bringing out fish. We went to a market one day and we got to see all the markets and all the fruits and vegetables, because Chile is known for the fruits and vegetables, and they grow it for the United States. I mean, not Chiloé per se, but Chile does. And all the table grapes, they're called table grapes that we eat. They all come from Chile.
Yeah.
And there was so much as consumers in the United States that I didn't really know, and why and how they grow them differently than wine grapes. And I just love knowing all of that. But
yeah, it's fascinating.
But like I was telling a friend recently about the raspberry juice that we had.
Yeah.
So you guys, these raspberries are so delicious. They're organic raspberries. And in the United States, it's $6, $7 for a tiny pint of organic raspberries, right? So you wouldn't dream of blending them in a blender and drinking the juice right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it would seem so wasteful. Well, down there, it's like anywhere. Oh yeah, we got organic raspberry juice. You want some? I was in heaven. That's crazy.
So does it make us old people to talk about one food for 5 minutes, right?
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's
Yeah.
just my admiration for this country.
Yeah. The juice
And
was amazing. Yeah.
and the juice was amazing. And the food at the hotel was insane and
Ah,
beautiful and like an
incredible.
artist's palette. It was
Yeah.
so that was part of it. Do you want to talk about the excursions and some of the things that we did in addition to resting and I don't know. It was amazing.
So I think that the boat excursion,
Mm-hmm.
amazing, right? You go out, you see the mussel beds, you see little islands. There's what, 30 or 40,000 islands off the coast of Chile. Am I saying that
Right.
right?
Right. Not in this, but well, exactly. There's
Right.
40,000, but in our little vicinity on Chiloé, there's only a few that,
Right.
we had access to. So we went on a boat called a Wileche.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm destroying that word. Williliche. I knew you had how to say it better than I did, but
Yeah, but I won't. I'll spare you. But I think, it's funny, the preparation of foods for lunch, the attention to detail and where to stop, what to see. I got to kayak with penguins, and you think penguins waddling, and in this case, not. They're swimming. They look
I
like
know.
ducks just swimming, right? But to kayak amongst those was amazing.
Chilean penguins.
Yeah, the stops, seeing the churches. I know you want to get to the churches in a minute. Just everything, the attention to detail. So, right, that excursion was amazing. A lot of people went on this really long hike for a day and loved it. There was biking. People loved that.
Right.
I think we did a tour of the city one day, and you're going to get to that a bit. So, I think the excursions were really incredible. Yeah, I left one out. Yes.
Oh, I don't. We'll talk about that one in a minute. But I want to jump back to the boat and describe this boat. This
Yeah.
is not your average ship. This is all made of wood. It has a very vintage feeling. I kind of felt like Ralph Lauren was going to walk off the boat. It had this really incredibly cool vibe. It was very large. There was only like 14 of us, I think, on the ship. And it was absolutely beautiful. And they welcome you with wine and tea and coffee. And then we had, appetizers. And then they brought this. So we're all kind of sitting in this room, and they brought this ceviche. Like they caught like that. Well, they didn't catch the ceviche. They caught the fish for the ceviche. I have to watch myself with you. I never know what you're going to say. So we had oysters. We had ceviche. We had amazing cuisine, and I'm like, this is heaven.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, really, really cool. So it's just, again, and you look at the culinary expertise all throughout this experience, we're just off the charts. Not to be forgotten, the cocktails, right?
Oh my gosh. So every day they made a new cocktail,
Yeah.
and there's this long bar with the view of the ocean. I mean, it was unbelievable. When I share the podcast, I will be putting, out photos from our trip, but
Yeah.
it was just so remarkable.
Yeah, it really was.
We also did this other thing called a Coranto, which I'd never heard of. And a Coranto is it's an earthen pit with hot stones in it. So imagine this, they dig a pit, they put in the hot stones. And I think a lot of cultures do this, but they call this a Coranto. And it was a combo of clams, mussels, chicken, sausages, potatoes, vegetables. And so they layer it. Obviously, you're not going to put your clams next to your chicken. Everything is layered, and they had these great big leaves of these incredible
Like
plants.
banana leaves, essentially.
Yeah, it wasn't a
layers.
banana leaf, but it was this great big leaf. And
Yeah.
so it was quite a show.
Yeah.
The
What
way
do you mean,
they-
no? I think they were banana leaves.
I don't know. No, there weren't banana leaves.
Would you know a banana leaf if I showed you one right now?
Yes, I would know what a banana leaf looks
Okay.
like. And when we did our nature walk, we learned that it was another one because it was all spiky. But I'll let you tell that story in a minute. So, anyways, it was all one layer at a time, and then they would bring it out, and they were literally like serving us mussels straight from that pit. It was absolutely gorgeous. And then a local trio of musicians were playing their local music,
Yeah.
and it was like, I don't know, it just kind of hit me at that point, thinking that to me, to Suzanne, this is my kind of travel experience.
Yeah, but I think you've caught the essence of what you and I like. If you can be just involved in and just absorbed in a culture where you're having their food, you're in their environment, everything around you just exudes what means something to them.
Right.
We love that kind of stuff. And so it's
Right.
easy to get lost in those moments. Absolutely. They're some of my favorites of all of our travel.
Right. So I did talk about the ship and I talked about the Toronto. And then while we were out there, so Craig did the kayaking, which was super cool. There was a handful of people that did that. I went out on a Zodiac and I am like a Zodiac fiend. We did that in Patagonia down around the icebergs and it was I loved it so much. So we went out and we too saw the penguins. I didn't kayak with them, but I got to float around with them.
Yeah.
And great big seals and the birds. Hello. I have become an official birder. I am now an official birder. And the birds were amazing. And even you were spotting birds. Don't say
No,
you
I
didn't.
point them out for you to enjoy. Yes.
But that was remarkable.
That's incredible.
A lot of birds. They had a whole like poster thing out on the point that showed all the the native birds and the birds that would migrate there. And it was just absolutely remarkable. So do you want to touch on talking about our nature bath?
Yeah, it sounds dirty. Look, I want to be respectful.
Yes.
I think the woman who was our nature bath guide was amazing. I loved her.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Knowledgeable, well-trained in nature bathing. I think I'm probably not the audience for that.
Oh, 100%.
I think to sit there and to breathe in the air and to be one with the grass and the leaves it's me. It's not anybody else. It's just not my thing. And I think I fell asleep during the first meditation.
Yes, you did.
So,
and you were making noises.
Yeah,
and I had to kind of like put my hand over on your arm and
probably dreaming of cocktails. I really appreciate the essence.
Yes.
That will be my last.
Well, thank you. And it was referred to as nature bathing instead of like forest bathing because it wasn't a true forest because we were literally in among trees and bushes and the ocean was right near us and stuff. But what it did for me is number one, it helps me just slow down and really just take in your surroundings. And we did a lot of listening and smelling and look, you're smiling. Okay, so the city boy is not a nature bather. We get that, but I appreciated you trying.
I'm going to guess a lot of people listening to this will never be about that either. But look, it's a wonderful experience if you have nothing else to do, and if you could do it quickly, it was great.
This was a while.
It was like 2, 3, 4 hours. It was a lot.
No, it was like 2.5, I think.
Yeah, felt like a lifetime.
But I think for the right person, I think it was great.
Yeah, I love that. So and I think if you're like over 80 and you're not mobile, probably be a great thing.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm not going to edit that out, but anywho. So part of also what we did, the day we went to the markets, we went around and we went to a lot of UNESCO churches. We went into the city of Castro, which is like the capital of the island. And that was gorgeous, seeing these churches. And what I found very, very interesting is so many of the churches were built by boat builders. Everything is made of wood and the joints were all, what do you call those? Something in mortis. What is that? Where
Yeah,
it's
but I
like
think we're getting at
dovetailed together.
the way they're designed. If you
Yeah.
think about riding in a boat, if you were to invert that and put it on the ceiling using the same engineering principles, that's what the insides of these churches look like on the top floor.
Yeah.
And
On the
it's
ceiling.
fascinating,
Yeah.
right?
It was,
But you consider they're all made out of wood because they have to be,
yeah,
right? That's what the resources are. You
correct.
think of the fact that these towns have endeavored to protect them through the ages. Some of these are ancient. It's just really, it's an amazing sight to see. It really is. And then the color schemes that go with it, just really
Right.
interesting.
They're painted bright colors in some instances. Others are they're very nautical in
Yeah.
the way they felt. The ships would come up and they were promoting Christianity and to the sailors as they came off. And um, I thought that was quite a bonus. The other thing they had there is because of the tides, they had stilt houses. So their houses were literally built on stilts and they were painted bright colors. It was quite a photographer's dream.
It was stunning. And now you're seeing that those that were becoming decayed, some of them are being acquired by people that are building restaurants, building hotels, right? Just kind of rehabbing them to do that. But it's really a beautiful sight because there's so much of the coastline there
Yeah.
that is on the stilts, so that they can withstand the rise of the tides. Some of those houses were geared around fishermen, so
Yeah.
it's just easy in, easy out, right? And yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. So it struck me too in the markets. The amount of fish is understandably excessive. We have a friend who works for Coca-Cola, and to see all of the Coca-Cola bottles repurposed for a homemade,
Cider?
what,
Was it
yeah, it was
cider?
a cider.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is the health department would not be blessing that here.
No, probably not.
But to see all those Coke liters lined up with that
Uh-huh.
cider in them was
For
really, I mean, I saw a lot of that.
for resale,
Yeah, that's right. I also
right?
feel like Coca-Cola, not plugging them, is they've sponsored all of Latin America. You,
I
you
know they're
can't
doing a great
go
job.
you can't go a block without seeing a
No.
sign for a Mercado, Coca-Cola, right? Pepsi, God love you. You live one to every 100 Cokes. So
Right.
yeah,
And they all had personalized signs. So there's a lot when you're doing a driving trip through Chile. There's a lot of these small, I want to call them mom and pop kind of markets and or cafe slash bars, and they're all custom made. So it's Jose's Coca-Cola. I mean, every one of them, and they had really fun names. They weren't necessarily
no,
what you would think. And I
yeah.
found that we counted we lost count when we were
Eh,
at like 30 of them.
There
I
are
just thought
more
that was remarkable.
Coca-Cola signs than there are Chilean flags. It's unbelievable.
Well, the
So
Chilean flags, they're very proud. And actually, I think it's a law that they have to have them up a certain amount of time or something like that. That was really fun to see the patriotism.
I think it's fun too to travel with someone who can explain to you, a lot of the history, a lot of the why. Just phenomenal. Just it's really adds to any trip, right? Because when you do a lot of self-guided, it's hard, right? And we've done so much of that in our lives. But when someone is there to just explain, here's why this land is important. Here's a battle we had and why that's important to us. It's just we don't go through our education system being exposed to that. And
Yeah,
they
that
do,
is
and it's phenomenal.
it was phenomenal. Well, we're winding down. We only have about 4 or 5 more minutes, but you know, I wanted to emphasize that you've been thinking about this for 10 years
Right.
and we found this remote hotel that was very special, very specialized. It took a long time to get there. It took a long time for us to plan for it. And I'm really glad we did.
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate you indulging me through this too, because I tend to bring up things a lot that I want to do. So
Yeah,
I
but we
do.
always do what I want to do, I feel like.
Oh, I know
And
you win 80-20, so I don't
correct.
feel bad. Don't get me
Correct.
wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I didn't think you did.
no, I'm losing no sleep. But look, here's what I think. Every trip we take, we come away enriched by the culture. We are won over by the people, and we meet people that we become endeared to, right? We have friends who've now traveled to Africa and Morocco, also on the continent with us, right? We met a woman and her son on Chiloé that are from Belgium,
Oh,
and I
we had the
thought they were
best time.
phenomenally. I could hang out with them every night.
Yeah.
Forget the fact she has great taste in champagne. We could
Yes,
we could
this is
hang
true.
out. I just loved them, right? And I think you're not talking about the wineries on this episode, but I look at some of the most amazing dinners we've had in our travels, and a similar scenario is wine tasting with four businessmen from China
That's
outside of Santiago, who, you just kind of talk about, hey, our news doesn't really depict how we feel. Pulls
let's talk
away.
about that for a second.
Y-
It's a really great story.
Yeah, I mean, Suzanne, I think of you and I played boules at a cooking school, bocce ball for French, a cooking school in Provence, and we had European couples and a chef from Seattle before we even knew Seattle, right? And it was just one of those magical nights. We've done a social dinner in a suburb of Rome where you're with people from Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan, all these different places. And to me, when I'm sitting with people and just talking about, just tell me about where you live. Let's talk about what we feel about the world. And you realize that we all are like very common. It's
Yeah.
the extremes you hear on the news, right?
Right.
So
Right.
things like that stand out. But these four men were there from China, representing the largest manufacturer of large tractor trailers, tires. So
Tires.
think of tractors the size of your house, those.
Right.
And they were there doing business, but they came to the winery. And that winery to me that was my favorite winery. It was
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
right? But I just think those experiences are what draw us to travel. And it was the woman and her son at Chiloé. I love them. I would love to see them again. So
Right.
that to me is like the really interesting thing about just all of our travels.
I agree with you, but I also would suggest that you have to be open to it
Yeah.
because not everyone wants to make, I mean, I'm not trying to make friends and bring them home. I just want to learn from other people. And I feel like travel is the way that we can connect. I mean, travel connections is about the connections we make when we travel. That was the whole reason I started this podcast. This is my fourth season, and this is the reason I did it. And I get emotional about it because I want to tell these stories because I want people to have hope that there is connections being made.
Yeah, I get it.
People around the world, even on a tiny little island at the very southern tip of Chile, there are people that care about Americans, that love us, and vice versa. I think they're under the misconception that people don't like Americans. And I don't have that experience when we travel abroad anywhere. I don't have that experience.
Those people should not travel. It'd be better for me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
I,
true.
I don't care, but that's all ridiculous. But
No,
yeah, I mean, okay, an example, Maduro is captured while we're there. And I told you that Thursday morning, I go, we should probably just be low key because I don't know how people will react.
Ray.
And whether you agree with what happened or not, I would tell you 95% of the Chileans were elated because they have a lot of people who've are refugees and they're
Right.
become ingrained in their communities and they're closer to the atrocities, right?
Yeah.
And to them, it was massive.
They were thrilled.
Right. So I think, yeah, I think that we just find people have a lot more common ground when you're together. And the rest is sensationalized from news. So I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Well, I thank you for coming on and talking. It went really fast, but I think we did get to cover all the best things. Did I forget anything?
No, it's very formal of you. Very nice to see you, Suzanne. Very nice.
Did I say it like that?
It's like I don't wake up every morning to your face, but okay.
Well, you
Okay.
know what I mean. You're a busy guy, and I appreciate it. very much that you come on and talk about this. And we'll have to do another episode talking about the wines because, I'm not an expert in Chilean wines, but I sure know a heck of a lot more now than I did before. And it really felt like Napa Valley, didn't it?
It does. And then when you start to understand the connections they have to Napa, it makes it even more interesting.
Exactly.
So that'll be the next time.
Then stay tuned. Is that a teaser? Oh my gosh.
It is.
Well, thank you again, husband. I appreciate you very much. And
you're welcome, wife. You do a great job. You're a natural at this. So
thank you. We'll see you back here on Travel Connections.
Lovely seeing you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.